I will carry for my life the burdens of decisions we made in that context. But as I said yesterday, I've said consistently, and I think the record will show this, we looked at all alternatives, and there was no alternative except default and collapse, much greater cost and expense to the taxpayer, to the one we chose. And we think we did what was in the best interest of the public and the taxpayer, and have an outcome today which is much less damaging because of what we did there.
There's so much anger still about AIG.
There's
so much anger about this.
I think most people, it is the hardest thing to understand. It's the basic symbol of unfairness. And people are outraged by it. And as I said yesterday, they should be outraged by it. It is just outrageous that this country let a bunch of institutions run without any basic checks and balances, adult supervision, brought the economy to the edge of collapse, and left the government with no tools to unwind them safely. It's an outrageous thing, and people should be outraged, and they should ask their leaders to make sure we reform the system.
How do you move forward as a good steward of the president's policies while all of this hammering about AIG still swirls around?
Again, it's a necessary thing to do. People need to understand as well as they can both what we did, why it was necessary, what were the alternatives, But our job now is to make sure we're creating jobs, growing businesses, growing the economy, growing exports, fixing the things that are broken in this country. We just didn't have a worse financial crisis in generations. We had a long period where the government or Washington was not doing what it needed to do. And businesses need, better outcomes from our education system. They need more certainty in rules of the game. They need more help expanding exports. They need more clarity on what is going to happen to healthcare reform. Those are things businesses need.
A lot of people are saying, the American people just got a raw deal. They got a raw deal. You're saying it would have been worse.
The American people in the crisis got a very raw deal.
Right.
Okay, but their deal would have been much worse if the government had stepped back and let that firm fail, or try to default selectively at a time when the financial system was literally falling apart. The rivets were coming off the submarine. People were saying, I do not have confidence in anything. And when that happens, if you let that go on, it is perilous and causes grave danger.
Stimulus is supposed to be the American people's bailout. And we even had polls this week that showed the majority of people think it's a waste. 54% of people we polled said that it just helps the bankers. I think that maybe people just think every taxpayer dollar is going to go in the pocket of a banker somewhere.
I think you're right.
How do you change the communication on that?
I think you're actually right. I think that a lot of people have been left with the impression by their elected leaders that the Recovery Act went to large banks without conditions, and they'll never see it again. In fact, what we did is we came in and we gave a very modest amount of additional money to small and community banks, and we took back from the major banks the investments my predecessor had to make. We forced them to raise capital, and we devoted huge amount of resources to tax cuts for businesses and Americans, and investments to things that are critical to things most Americans believe in. And one of the most important things our elected leaders need to do is to help explain what happened, not to fan the feeds of not to fuel the anger and resentment out there, but to actually explain.
Compare for me the political heat right now on the Hill about the AIG stuff. Compare for me the political heat with the economic heat of the last couple, maybe September, for example, 2008. Which was more painful for you?
Because our financial system is no longer on the brink of collapse, because we are starting to repair this terrible crisis in the financial system, I feel more confident about the basic foundation of our economy than I have for 3 years. And that's really the important thing. The President said last night, it's very important. We take a lot of political heat. We're in a deeply political moment, very angry moment. But, what we're going through comes with a job. It's nothing like, what people have been experiencing across the country for the last 2.5 years, for the last year, they're still experiencing. And, our job, our obligation is to work on things that are going to make a difference.